This is problem 1 from the coordinate geometry quiz review for geometry. And in this problem, we want to determine what type of quadrilateral ABCD is with the given coordinates, and we need to justify the answer using sound mathematical reasoning and answer each of the questions. So the first step, as always, is to plot these points. So we have A is 2, 2, and we'll label that as A. And I've got B is 5, negative 2. So there's B. C is 9, 1. And D is 6, 5. And we'll go ahead and connect these. So once you have it sketched in here, you should have a pretty good idea of what it is, but we do need to verify it using our mathematics. And in this unit, what we've been doing is we've been using slopes. So now what we want to do is we want to check to see if the opposite side slopes are the same, meaning the opposite sides would be parallel. And we want to check to see if the adjacent sides slopes are opposite reciprocals, meaning the adjacent sides would be perpendicular. So let's go ahead and let's start finding all the slopes. The slope of segment AB is going to be 2 minus negative 2 divided by 2 minus 5. So that's 4 over negative 3. And let's find BC next. So I have the slope of BC. So I've got 1 minus negative 2 and 9 minus 5. So that gives me 3 over 4. So already I can see that these two sides, which are adjacent, have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. So this is going to be a right angle. Alright, now let's check the slope of CD. At any time, if the video is going too fast for you, feel free to pause it. And if you miss something, feel free to rewind it. So for CD, I've got 5 minus 1 over 6 minus 9. So that's 4 over negative 3. So now I can see that these two sides, AB and CD, they have the same slope. So these sides are going to be parallel. And then let's find one more slope, the slope of AD. That's going to be 5 minus 2 over 6 minus 2. So that's 3 over 4. And again, these two slopes are the same. So these two sides are going to be parallel as well. So now I've got that all the adjacent sides are perpendicular because their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So I know that these are all going to be right angles, and the opposite sides are parallel. So we've got that this is going to be at least, at the very least, this has to be a rectangle. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to check the slopes of the diagonals. Okay, check slopes of diagonals. If they are opposite reciprocals, and therefore perpendicular, the rectangle is then a square. Okay, just some notes here for you, just so you understand what I'm doing here. Knowing that the opposite sides are parallel, we know that it's at least a parallelogram. And since the adjacent sides are perpendicular, we know it's at least a rectangle. Now if we check the slopes of the diagonals, then we see that they're perpendicular. If it's a rectangle with perpendicular diagonals, then we know that it's also a square. So let's check the slope of AC. So that's going to be 2 minus 1 over 2 minus 9. So that's 1 over negative 7. And then the slope of BD. So if we're looking for them to be perpendicular, we want the slope of BD to be 7 over 1. So for BD, I have 5 minus negative 2 over 6 minus 5, which is in fact 7 over 1. So I've got opposite sides parallel, all the angles are right angles, and the diagonals are perpendicular to each other. Therefore, the figure is a square. Okay, and then my sound mathematical reasoning would be opposite sides are parallel, adjacent sides are perpendicular, and the diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, that's my sound mathematical reasoning. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Again, if you need to rewind to rewatch it, strongly recommend watching it at least twice. And then you can go on to the next video to see parts B and C of this problem.